Charles. Everybody, we'll start here in a second.
Extremely quiet again.
I couldn't hear you when I'm on that other screen. Am I louder now?
Not really.
What about now?
Try again.
What about now?
Hey, there you are. Just a final heads up, it is still only in the left ear, but I mean, I can work with it if you can.
Yeah, if we can edit it out, I'll have in a second. I'll have her check the lives because we are currently live on YouTube and Instagram and Twitch. For some reason, Facebook has been having this major issue lately, and now it says they're updating their streaming. Okay, Charles, I apologize we're late. We was going to do this off air, but since we're already live, we're not forcing our beliefs on anybody, but would you go ahead and lead a prayer still? Uh-oh, I can't hear you now. Lost your, You guys will need headphones on. Can you hear us now?
Can you guys?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I can hear you guys. I'm ready if you all are.
Okay. Yeah. I guess sound like a robot. Shit. Does that sound like you guys, or is that just my headphones? Oh, you got your headphones on. Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know if everybody said do you want to lead in a prayer?
Absolutely.
Still,
Let's do it, man.
Like I said, we're not here to put everybody's welcome to their own beliefs and own rights around here, but this is what we'd like to do today.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, if y'all are ready, let's jump into it. I'd be happy to kick us off with a prayer.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Jesus, we just ask for your protection on this call, that you give us a safe place to just have a conversation that fills everyone up, something that inspires those who need to be inspired, something that challenges those who need to be challenged. God, I pray that it will be truthful, and that as offensive as the truth can be, that it will be well received with all who need to receive it. And more than anything, that we just shed light on what is truth. I pray that you protect everyone in the conversation, that you give us all clarity of mind, clarity of heart, and that as we communicate, that it would be productive above all else. We just thank you for another beautiful day that we don't deserve. We thank you, God, for that each and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody. This is Unwind, Uncensored. Tonight we're going to dig deep into mental health. It's something that it just is getting worse and worse and worse. And if you don't deal with it yourself, you know somebody remotely close or somebody in your life who's dealing with it right now as we speak. And it's actually Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're going to keep that in mind. And with that, I'm going to bring my guest tonight, Mr. Kerry Payton there, and you, Kerry, if you look at that light, that'll be you. Kerry is, I guess I'll let you tell them about yourself. Get a little bit closer to your mic there. You got a lot of good points. I know it was real quiet on your end, probably, wasn't it? Charles.
Oh yeah. I basically can't hear him. Just a heads up.
Okay. That's what I think. Let me see. All right. I think what I'm dealing with him is he don't have 48. He needs fan bolts, so I'm just gonna have to change inputs for him. So, if you don't mind, Charles, anybody that's watched the first episode, Charles was on here, and we talked about addiction, and we talked about a lot of different stuff, and that's we're going to keep leading into tonight, and actually I was going to let everybody know from this point on, Charles is going to be probably a pretty regular third person on this show, and we've got some stuff, nice stuff that's going to be lined up. I don't know if you want to maybe start out on something while I change these mics over.
Yeah, you know what? We can definitely dive into a few different things here. I'll go ahead and start off with something pretty controversial, especially since it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I believe. I don't know what it's officially called, but yeah. Here's my initial thoughts. One of the things that I teach every single client I work with is that men are not logical creatures. And it might sound controversial because I believe that all people, men, women, whatever the heck you want to call yourself, everyone is an emotional creature. And I'd say especially for guys, that could be something that maybe they don't want to acknowledge. But at the end of the day, just because love is interpreted by men as respect does not mean that they don't want love. It just means that the lens that they view emotions through looks a little different from how women view emotions. But just because the lens is different doesn't mean that it's not emotional in regards to the way that men have needs and men communicate and men see things and feel things. And the same way that, whether you're a man or a woman, I mean, you're going to have emotional needs that got to get met. And really, it's those emotional needs that are driving every area of your life. And so when you go for a long time without your emotional needs getting met, what you end up doing is living this life where you're constantly chasing down getting your needs met, whether it's through purpose or identity, or just constantly needing everyone's respect, attention, validation. And the flip side is that you may be like, you don't want to acknowledge that you need any of those things at all. And so you end up on the other side of that pendulum there, where you just try to not need anything ever. And you just totally close your heart off to the world, And so we've got two ways that when your emotional needs are not being met, we've got two different ways that you could swing on that pendulum. Either you become a black hole or you become a brick wall. And it doesn't really matter which side you go to. At the end of the day, you still have emotional needs that need to be met in a healthy way. And it doesn't matter what's between your legs. What matters is that you've got emotional needs that got to be met. And there is a healthy way to get those needs met, but there's also an unhealthy way. And, the thing about that is that the brain doesn't know the difference between what feels good and between what is good and what is not good. It only knows what feels good and what feels bad. So, really a lot of people, this is why people end up with addictions, vices, substance abuse problems. It's because the brain wants to feel good, but it doesn't understand that the thing being used to feel good is not healthy. And so, I think that honestly, this is where a lot of men's mental health problems comes from, is that we live in a world, especially in America, all based on escapism and dopamine addiction. Um, and I mean, you look at every single aspect of marketing that exists, and it's all about hacking into your dopamine system. It's all about hacking into your psychology and using it against you. And it's a lot easier to do that for someone who's already dopamine addicted. So it's not like anyone's fighting for any of the people. No one's fighting for anyone here.
No,
It's just a game of take.
yeah,
And so really that leaves us at the end of the day. We've got to get to a place where collectively as a society, we can start to stand together and say, you know what? There needs to be a different way that we address a lot of these problems that we deal with every single day. Again, I mentioned earlier that men interpret love as respect. And so a lot of men, they feel emasculated when they don't get the respect that they feel they deserve, because that is literally something that is built into each and every man. The desire to be respected. Now, from the top down, we call that respect. But maybe maybe it's a young guy, and the question is, how does he receive respect from elders or just people in general who are older than him? Well, a lot of what that looks like is wanting someone to feel proud of him. So respect and feeling proud are two ways that a man wants to feel emotionally satisfied and emotionally validated. But we really live in a world these days where, because of um, the difficulty that men have to receive any sort of emotion, they either get it completely in an unhealthy codependent way, or they wall themselves off, and they'll say things like, I don't need anything from anyone. I can do this on my own. They become that lone wolf. And then on the other side of that is also what happens when you go long enough without getting your needs met in a healthy way. And that's, again, what turns into the addictions. So really what I'm trying to paint here is this clear picture. Heck, you don't even have to call it an addiction. It's just something that soothes the pain. And eventually for some people it becomes chronic or compulsive, right? And that's what we call addiction. But, if we just look at it as it is, all I'm painting here is a picture of what is centric to all men's mental health problems is the lack of emotional regulation, the lack of emotional awareness, the lack of emotional validation in a healthy way. And sure, there's more problems than just emotions. Yes, there is a genetic aspect. There is there's I guess you could say even a health, like a physical health aspect. Like, are you eating junk food? Cool, then you're going to feel like crap.
Yep.
There's more angles that we could look at, right? There's more nuances.
You covered.
There's abuse that could have been experienced. There's tons of different things we can look at. But if we're just looking at a general collective, what is the one thing that we could all do to help a man heal, or to help a man become a man? How to help him go from a boy to a man. I mean, it has to do with he needs just as much emotional support as anyone else. Whether it's just another guy who might be more emotionally in tune than he is, or whether it's a woman. It doesn't matter who it is. All men are emotional creatures, same as women. There's no guy, I'm convinced, after studying and working with clients, there is no guy who could ever claim that he's just a logical guy. That right there is what we call And maybe they've shoved it down because that part of them didn't feel safe to come out.
Yeah.
But
And
at the end of the day, it's something that everyone needs to be able to address. Is how do we emotionally support men so that they can stand up as men and not just be really grown up boys, you know?
and like you said, because men, they will always wear that fake smile, like
Uh-oh, I
I'm
can't
fine.
hear you.
You can't hear me? Let's see. Oh, I got to go back into your settings since I changed mics.
If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Yeah. What about now? There, we good?
There you are. Yeah.
I changed mics, but no, no wonder I tried to butt in like 3 times. I was like, oh shit. Well, yeah, and you touched a lot of great bases. I mean, from what the difference between men, women, children, veterans in statistical wise, and then going back into the men, they'll walk around like you said, empty inside, but look at their wife and look at their mom or dad, and oh, I'm fine, everything's okay, I got this, and because it's still so much of a stigmata for a man to say, I just want to fucking cry. I mean, that's something that needs to be tackled. You also talked about it's get worse and worse and worse, but the percentage of help we get is going down and down and down, especially in like veterans and that's where Kerry comes in, and that's where Kerry comes in because he's a veteran and he's Kerry lost his daughter, his grandson, and has been through some tough stuff in life and handed some hard cards, and this is a guy that still walks around smiling and telling everybody that everything's fine. I mean, I might be the only one that he opens up to.
I'd like to say that is it Shannon's turn?
No, I was just saying scoot up a little bit closer.
When I was in the military, and even when I was a small young man, my dad brought me up. You didn't cry. You didn't show emotion. That you was a puss if you did. So I got in trouble. So I was brought up not to show no emotion. And then I went in the military, and back when I was in the military in the 80s, you couldn't go to your commander and say, hey, I'm having some breakdown, mental issues. They laughed at you. They told you to go back to do your job and forget about it, or you'll be punished for it. So there's a lot of obstacles out there and people that had influence on me that I'm not supposed to be emotional. Yet I have.
Yeah, honestly, you're bringing up a lot of great points about, especially the military side of things. I'll just mention briefly. I've worked with a couple of men who have been in the military, and I'll tell you what, they have the most difficult time tapping into their emotions, which is really where healing comes from. And I do believe that there is a lot of programming that is done to military men to help them stay sharp. But ultimately, if they can't learn how to tap back into the emotional part of who they are, that eventually is what kills them when they enter back into society and they can't fully reintegrate. It's because that part of them that they needed to close off for war, they never learned how to tear those walls back down. And I think there is a lot to be said about what reintegration in a healthy way actually looks like, but I don't think that it's something that's been fully addressed. Really, like Jimmy, what you're saying as far as like, there's less help than ever. It's funny because there's a perception that there is more help than ever. There's a lot more awareness than ever. But just because there's an awareness and there's a lot more resources available doesn't mean that they're effective. It doesn't mean that they're as accessible. And it doesn't mean that it's actually going to address the problems on a major scale, right? We got to start where we're at, but we have to talk about solutions that everyone can have access to.
I also think I firmly believe that there could be a lot more in the veteran department. I mean, the statistics of veterans that commit suicide or actually commit suicide in the veteran hospital is just outstanding because they don't. I guess like you said, they put out there, they get the PTSD, get everything, but then they come back to here and they can't afford their medicines, or the doctors won't prescribe them their medicines, but yet they had no problem getting them on the plane and taking them overseas and dropping them in the jungle. It's the numbers are. I'm gonna pull something up here real quick. The numbers are just insane, and I asked, I looked up for the last in like 10-year intervals on statistics. So if we got, let me see, I can actually probably get this to play for you guys, so I ain't gotta read it. Yeah, they jump, and like I said, the numbers get higher, and the suicide rate is insane. Right now, it's the second leading cause of death in America is suicide, and
in the military, there's one every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That commits suicide.
Wow.
And I'm going to play this little clip, and then here's Shannon. I'm going to trade him to this since I'm on the Yeti. We'll get these sound issues worked while we're working. All right, and let me see if I get this to make sure you'll be able to hear this, Charles. Oh. So we'll do screen share. Okay. Now you should be able to hear this when it comes in. It carries a microphone in here. Sorry, folks. This is only episode 3. Carrie, let's hear you now, buddy.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. You got a good copy of him? Charles?
It sounds okay on my end. I can kind of hear him through your mic.
Okay. Well, I got this wood pulled up, and he'll be fine when we get him back on here. Let's see. And this is statistics in the last from 1980 to 2020 in 10-year intervals. Now the internet.
Certainly. Let's
Can you hear
explore
that?
mental health statistics in the
Nope.
United States over the
Nothing. I got a
past
blank
4
screen.
decades, from 1980 to 2023.
Let's see.
1980. Prevalence of mental illness. Data from the early
Gotcha.
1980s indicated that mental illnesses were common, affecting millions of Americans. Treatment facilities.
Can you hear it
The
now?
specialty mental health sector saw growth, with an increase in non-federal general hospitals offering
on my end.
psychiatric services and community mental health centers. 1990. Prevalence. In 1990, mental health conditions continued to impact a significant portion of the population. Anti-anxiety medication. On average, 44.4% of patients were prescribed anti-anxiety medication. 2000. Prevalence. By 2000, the incidence of common mental disorders had increased. Treatment rates. In 2010, 19.2% of adults received mental health treatment, including medication and counseling. 2020. Prevalence. In 2020, 20.3% of U.S. adults received mental health treatment, with 16.5% taking prescription medication and 10.1% receiving counseling or therapy. Demographic variation. Treatment rates varied by age, gender, and ethnicity. Youth mental health. In 2016, 16.5% of U.S. youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health disorder. Remember that mental health affects us all, and seeking...
Okay, I know you didn't get to hear it, but it played for everybody. So, I mean, I'll just give a quick rundown to you, Charles. It's like in 1980 is when the prevalence of mental illness, the data from the early 1980s indicated that mental illnesses were very common, affecting millions of Americans. And then they started growing on treatment facilities. Then for the next 10 years, in 1990, mental health conditions, they continued to impact at even more significance. On average, in the 1990, 44% of patients were prescribed medication for anxiety. Then by 2000, the prevalence, the common disorders had increased, and the treatment rate in 2010 became 19.2% of adults received mental health treatment. And as 2020 it went to 16.5% adults were taking prescriptions, and 10.1% of adults were receiving counseling and therapy. And by 2016, 16.5% of the youth aged 6 to 17 experienced a mental health disorder.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and to the kids, when we were kids, it was go out and play or you do something. You're just hyper. Okay, you're a kid. And now I think through the times it grew up, it's like, I know I should have been on ADHD, anxiety medicines, because I suffer from extreme anxiety and extreme ADHD, OCD, LSD, everything. No, I have never. I'm prescribed Cymbalta now. I just started to tackle it, but my whole life I just put it behind me. Like I can do this on my own. Which kind of answers my question from the last episode of when we was talking about families and the drinking and stuff. I think my drinking was more my coping method for my anxiety and to be able to be around people.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to need to do those things in order to just function around others when there's like underlying unaddressed causes, and I think that unfortunately until that, like whatever those underlying causes are actually addressed, I think that the statistics are skewed so that it really only shows the data that we have visibility to. And I think that we're severely underestimating how bad the problem really is.
Yeah, because if you think with the 19% of men that actually are prescribed medication, there's probably another 25% of men that are like me and Carrie and just go on with our day and deal with it and don't go see a doctor or don't go see a therapist. And I
it's that whole I'm fine. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I cut. Did you start to say something a second ago?
Go ahead. Shannon, you ain't said nothing. Please go ahead.
We got you. Okay. I'm saying we got your mic going good. Can you hear him good now?
Still just through you, but I can hear him.
Huh. You bet. Yeah. Carrie, we've talked about this before. I mean, we both know what masks and what helps us, but it don't help the people around us or don't help anything else. It's help our cause.
But why is the cure? It seems like if you go to the doctor, it's always, well, let's give you this pill to pep you up, this one to let you go to sleep, this to help you get through the day. I'm on 15 medications from the VA, and I went cold turkey to see what would happen. And I did go through a little bit of withdrawals, but I'm down to about 4 of them. Because to me it seems like they want to just pass the cure, which is not the cure, it's a crutch. Just like alcohol or drugs or anything else. It's not going to heal you. You got to, in your mind, in your heart, you got to overcome that stuff, and you can't bet on that medication is going to better yourself. But the government pushes on us.
Yeah, that's that makes deep. Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick note on that, and actual quick note this time. It's really funny. You even look at the cold and cough medicines that you can just get at any pharmacy, and I mean, it's not just something to heal. You look at it, and it says cough suppressant. It doesn't actually address the underlying causes and heal anything. All it's doing is shoving them down until it flares up again. And I found that that's been the case with so many medications. And I'm not like a super professional in this area. I've just observed what I've observed, right? And a lot of what I see is medicines that are more suppressant than they are for actual healing.
We have a comment. Karen says, recognizing you have a problem is the first step in getting the proper help for it. Plus, I know too many men who are in denial and refuse to seek help, is what she says. And yeah, most definitely. And that's why they don't get help, because men, it takes a lot for us to say that we have a problem, because we were built and bred to be okay all the time.
And there's a big problem even with misdiagnosing people as well. Like, I really think that our bodies were made to heal on their own when you give the body the proper conditions, the same way that if you just give a plant everything it needs, it's going to start growing in the right ways. But when one or two of those conditions goes missing, healing is going to be stunted. And you look at how the body was designed, there's actually I know that the body seeks equilibrium, and you look at even what, like, I believe the proper term is homeostasis. What homeostasis really is like that body desiring balance within itself. The body has everything it needs if you give it the right conditions and the right environment.
Mm-hmm. And I was gonna say, you say, Carrie, the put the pill push in, and that would lead me onto the whole, herbs and medicines that will help us, but our government won't. Well, they're starting to, but they won't allow it. You'll get, say herbs that someone smoke, and it really helps them. And like here in Indiana, they'll say, no, that's illegal, but you can go to the gas station that can sell this chemical that's man-made 100%. And looks like the thing that grows from the ground, and that's perfectly legal to buy. It's just there's a lot of, I think Indiana does not have, we have the laws and stuff we have because of Eli Lilly. We're a pharmaceutical state, and that's what pays for everything. And here this is Eli Lilly, so they're never going to give the right medicine. And even it's a known fact now, and and prescribed and treated right. Psychedelic mushrooms in small doses, if it's administered correctly, it works wonders on mental health.
It's really interesting. I feel comfortable saying it on record. Like, I will always opt for a natural healing modality before I ever look to any outside source.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if I have the option to take an ibuprofen or learn to never need an ibuprofen, heck, I'm always going to opt for, you know what, I'm going to suffer through this rather than take the ibuprofen, because I don't want to condition myself to lean on an ibuprofen. But let's say that, like, I just had a tooth removed or something, then cool, maybe I might consider it a little bit. But it's not going to be something that I ever go to as a first resort. It's always going to be, I've exhausted all other options, and I've taken full responsibility for doing everything in my power and my control to opt for a natural route. And so I'd say even things like marijuana and mushrooms, heck, I really go so far as to say that I don't even want to lean on those things. I really believe that the body has everything that it needs if you give it those proper conditions. Yeah. But again, this is only my experience, and I know that there's plenty of people out there that have gotten benefits from both of those things. I think part of the problem that I have with it personally is just that it's so it's become so overprescribed, and like everything is overprescribed. So how do we actually know when someone needs something outside of themselves versus when you're treating something that maybe it was in fact made by God to be used in the way that it's being consumed, but we can't actually diagnose if that's true or not simply because everyone's freaking doing it.
Yeah.
And everyone's claiming they're sick. They're speaking sickness and disease over themselves, and you can see that there's literally people that they are always in and out of the hospital. And I mean, that's not the kind of life that I want to live. I don't want to live to always be on the edge of death. I want to get as far away from that as possible.
Yeah.
But like, I think that it needs to be something we start seeking out. How can I be whole? Not how can I lean on crutches my whole life, you know?
Yeah, and you brought that up early. A crutch could be anything too. You know, I eat ice, cups of ice all day long, and that's a crutch for my anxiety because I don't smoke cigarettes or nothing. I think the ice in my cup, the hand all the time, that's just my cigarette almost. You know, everybody's got that something they've got to do, whether it be chewing their fingernails or twirling their hair. They've got something that they use to stimulate their mind to take it away from what they're dealing with.
Yeah, and you know, I think that all those things can be addressed, but it does first start off. I don't remember who commented, but what was it? There has to be an acknowledgement of the problem.
Yes.
I think that our body has a lot of telltale signs of hey, there's something wrong, but we've leaned on outside sources so much that we become disconnected from what our bodies are trying to tell us. And so I think that if we, well, I'll even say this, like one of the things that I take my clients through is I'll take them through a chemical cleanse where they purge from unhealthy sources of dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. And so once they remove all unhealthy sources and they remove all distractions, they're able to actually address some of those things that maybe they've been running from, or you really just see what's actually going on beneath the surface that really needs to be addressed, so that we stop blaming whatever is beyond ourselves. Instead, we start taking responsibility for, oh, it was inside of me trying to tell me all along that, oh, I was dealing with tons of unforgiveness, or I just haven't let go of this traumatic experience and I've been holding on to it, and I've been beating myself up over it, or you know, whatever it looks like. Or I'd say another example is I've allowed this fear to control me. And I find so much of these crippling problems that people deal with, and you know, only my experience, so much of them has to do with us being disconnected from the reality of the problem. And so we don't actually address the real problem. We just keep band-aiding and band-aiding and band-aiding until one day, you know, someone goes in, they unalive themselves and they leave us behind. And I don't ever want to see anyone get to that point. But I think the first thing that needs to happen is we need to acknowledge that there needs to be a mass ripping off of the band-aids. And you know, like cold turkey, Carrie, I applaud you for going cold turkey. I think that we need more people who are willing to go cold turkey. And you know, you know, considering what month it is, I'm just gonna stop the pre-context of it's just my experience, and I'm just gonna say it off the bat. I'm not a certified professional, but I do work with people every single day who are leveling up their inner worlds, and they're getting their mental and emotional healing. But I'm not a certified professional, so I'm just going to stop prefacing it. And at this point, I'm just going to say, like, I personally believe that going cold turkey is the way that it really needs to happen. Because when you start having all those triggers come to the surface, you can address them as they come up. And for some people, they just need more guidance. They need people to be there with them. But the problem is when someone tries to cold turkey, and yet they don't let anyone help them, and they're all alone in the process, and they're still going with the I don't need help, I can macho this, you know,
and dealing with their anxiety and then detoxing on top of that. And
yeah,
it's weird because I don't think you can see comments, but you and Karen are talking back and forth. You don't know it, but she said good point on the Band-Aids too. It's a supplement, but the mental health aspect of it needs to be addressed. She said it's a good life coach or therapist should be able to help you coping with skills of any kind of mental health issues. And Karen, I don't know if you know, his actual full-time profession is porn addiction recovery coach, and and that goes into the whole line of everything being an addiction, a crutch, and somebody that needing a different kind of help than one person needs. This person is his own person, and he may need everything different than every other person in the world. But they want to generalize it down to one group of people, and this is what'll fix it all, and that's not the way it works.
What I don't understand, and I'm speaking for myself, is I took off 15 medicines every day faithfully for a long time, and none of it made me feel better. It made me feel worse. It made me think of things that you normally wouldn't think. It was counteracting, and I knew it wasn't going to work before they ever give it to me. And there's not enough education, and every person is different, so it's not going to be the same spill. But if you let your mind clear up without the Band-Aids and the promotion of pills, because everybody thinks clomping. Man, I get it clomping, it's going to melt me out, and my life's going to be great. You know what? Cause more problems for me. We need education. There's other ways to heal than with medication. I mean, there's praying to God, there's meditation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but you don't hear about it.
Just everyday life activities. Get out and enjoy your life. Put everything in a basket behind you, and then just try to take on the positive to bring out the negative out of you. I mean, we all run on an energy, and that's a way of doing it too. And also with the education on the double-edged side of the sword is you got to get more people that are willing to learn. Everybody's too in a hurry. Give me my medicine, I got to go. I don't need to know nothing about it. The doctor just said take it 4 times a day. They don't want to take the time to learn about what they have to take. All they know is that how many times they're supposed to take it and when. We as people need to have to step up and say, hey, we got to slow down. We got to figure our lives out a little bit before we just run through it.
One of the things that I've observed in this realm of inner healing, I guess you could call it, if we want to put like an umbrella term on it, and mental health, right? One of the things that happens is we think there's a one size fits all. And I know that's something you mentioned earlier, like, Carrie mentioned there's meditation, there's praying to God. I mean, yes, there is. And all those things are good. But, one of the things that I found is a really, really big challenge for some people is that they try some of those things, but they don't have a holistic solution, and they don't have a solution that is cohesive either. It doesn't work together. They're just trying tons of individual things. And then there's one more layer to this problem that I see, and it's that even if you're doing all the right things, you don't have the critical thinking skills to understand how you got any of the results that you might have gotten. And so you don't know how to keep repeating those results and turn it into a new lifestyle. So if something works and you don't know why it worked, you end up going back to the old lifestyle. Even if something worked for a little bit, and a lot of people will say like, well, it must have been a fluke, or I tried it once, but it just doesn't work for me. It works for everyone except me. And, life was meant to be more than just do. And that's a lot of what we're living in right now, is a world fueled by anxiety and stress and fear, because all anyone is doing is living like a cog in the system.
Yep.
They're living like robots because they don't know how to go from doing to using this brain to critically think and to wake up and realize that they are more than their ability to perform. And if they continue to judge their worth based off of their ability to perform, they're never going to reach the top of that mountain. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No.
You know, I'm sure you're familiar with Star Wars. There's always a bigger fish, and you know, you can never base your worth off of performance. But that's the world we live in, and I think that it's a huge underlying cause of why there is so much stress, anxiety, and worry. Because what are we putting our attention on? We'll never be there. There's never enough.
Yep.
It's a complete scarcity.
And everybody that they think they're on a schedule now is like, I have to be there, I have to be here, I have to be here. I
Yeah.
can't stop and take a drink. I can't stop and pray. I don't have time to do that. I got to be here. I gotta be there. You don't have to do anything but what you make yourself do. I mean,
Ooh.
yeah, you got to pick
Yeah.
your kids up, but you know, you don't have to run out of that house. You don't have to. You can take your time, take a breath, thank whoever you thank for being alive today, and then go about your next task.
You know, that's a great point. We live in a world fueled by obligation. I should do this. I have to do this. This person needs me. That person needs me. I mean, yeah, you want to be there for people, but you also can't let your cup run empty.
And that's
Yeah,
why
and-
we can
and-
put Shannon in this conversation.
That's what I
Let's
was
do it.
getting
She's
ready to say.
she's the one that puts all her stuff behind her because she thinks she has to take care of everybody else, and does not address anything that's on her own mind because she's. Well, that's just me talking right now, so she couldn't hear, but no, but I'm just addressing that you help and help and help and think you have to help and help and help and help to where you don't help yourself.
And I think people like Jimbo and Shannon that's together, a lot of times you don't want to hear her criticisms of what's going on at that time. And it could be the opposite way as well. But I know this lady knows Jimbo inside and out, and best friend. She knows me pretty damn good. And she may have the answer if we would listen, but we don't want to be weak and say, you knew what the answer was, and I did. Some men take that's a put down. No, that's love. That's her caring about him.
That's amazing, actually, really. And that's back to the men, and a lot of men do that because we're trained to. No, she's not right. There's no way she's right, and it was just forced in the brain as a kid.
And she's not a man. She can't know what we know. She may know a lot more than we know. I guarantee she does me.
I don't want to know what goes on with women, so that she can know ours. I don't want in those drama, the anxieties they have. Yeah,
You know, it's actually really interesting now that you mentioned that. I mean, one of the things that I know from my wife is that when our son cries, her body responds. Her body can feel when our son is in distress. My body doesn't feel that at the same level that hers does, and like, I can't even imagine what that pain is like, feeling distressed when someone else is in distress. And like, yeah, there's compassion, there's empathy, but that's like a biological response right there, and that just blows my mind.
and it never stops. I mean, my mom can text me 2 hours, and nobody will know that what I'm going through at that moment, and then I'll get a text from my mom, just, I'm worried about you, and that's all. And she'll know I'm going through it before anybody. I'll be sitting here by myself, and the mother's intuition knows that there's nothing bigger than that.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Well, actually, let me get Karen still in here. So let me get back to some of these comments because I feel like I skip on that too much. She said, it has tremendously helped me identify when I feel anxiety or a panic attack coming in. I put in place the skills that I've learned to subvert it. And, refresh it? Oh, I'm not getting, none of half the chapstick yet. So I'm sorry, Karen. Let's see. Oh wow. Okay. Where is it? Top and bottom. Yes, women have sixth intuition, like when you have kids. And as an empath, I feel other people's emotions and stress too. And that has helped develop, after her stroke, has helped develop that. And in her stroke recovery, the first thing that appealed to her was the crystals and meditations. And I have divided it in from there. That kind of goes on.
That's amazing.
Everybody has their energy. And like I said, we chose our prayer at the beginning. Some may meditate, some may just sit down and focus on the good things in their life. And the main goal of it all is just keep your alignment in center and move forward and straight and not get off your path that you're supposed to be on. No matter which way you take it in.
Can Shan be heard? Is it not?
She could read if she wants to.
I like to hear what a woman feels.
I can't hear what you guys are talking about.
I mean, you can have this.
I got
Here,
nothing.
take this.
Oh, it's fine. I'm making sure there's no comment.
How are you on time, Charles?
I got 12 minutes.
12 minutes? All right. Do you want to bring Karen in? Ask Karen if she wants to come on camera for the last few minutes, and she can actually.
I don't know if she does.
Because I also want in this, I want people to be able to call in. If you got questions, if you want to ask, if me or Charles are sitting here or whoever our guest is, and we're addressing something that really it amends you, or you have something to help or say that could help someone else, by all means, reach out to me or Shannon, and we'll pull you in. We'll pull your phone call. If you don't want to do that, we'll just say what you have to say for you. But we need more of us as people doing what we're doing right here.
I'd like to say thank you for your time.
Yeah, there's so much we can dive into, and I think that's why, as this gets going, it's just the train's gonna keep rolling. Especially now that I can bounce ideas off Charles behind the scenes, and we can get things going, because we can do 2 more episodes on this. We didn't get into like deep causes of the PTSD or deep root problems. I mean, your anxiety, I'm sure, was it there before Korea, or was it? I mean, I know definitely with stuff that happened in the future made it worse, but
I believe it's hereditary. I got depression stuff. Over in the military, there's things that I saw that it's really hard to understand.
yeah, and you wear that vest every day, and you don't take it off till everybody leaves. You have everybody in your house, and just you're making everybody happy, but you got that jacket on that's covering everything you got.
Yeah.
And that's the worst thing you can do ever, because then you'll have that 1 minute and it all just explodes. You can only suppress it for so long. The best thing to do is talk to people too, and if you think your friends or your family member are, it's not good to I'll leave them alone, let them deal with their issues. That's not what they want. They might tell you that's what they want, but it's not.
And most people that I ain't gonna say most people, I'll say myself. I want somebody to tell me the answer to my problems if they got it, or make a suggestion. I used to be where I closed myself off and nobody could tell me anything that was going to help me at all. But if I would have listened, I'd been a better person.
Yeah, everybody can say if we would have. I mean, but you can't live on the if we would have or if I could have. You just got to focus more on the I will.
Yeah, definitely.
You got anything you want to close out with? And I know we had some audio issues at the beginning, but I think we got all that leveled out right after the first few minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think one topic we could end with. Why don't we tie it back in with the opening controversial statement that there's no such thing as a logical man. I believe all men are emotional creatures, the same as women. But just because it looks differently doesn't mean that it's not emotion. And really, it does look different, right? One of the things that I've learned, even through just marriage, is how my wife opens her heart differently than how I open my heart. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a heart just because my heart doesn't open the way her heart does. And so, really, in order for us to be able to connect and be intimate and vulnerable with each other, a lot of what that looks like in its purest form is just complete and total acceptance of who I am and who she is and the unity that we're coming together with. And I think that that's a form of love that is special in a marriage, but that there's also a level of vulnerability and intimacy that we need with each other and that we need collectively as a society. But that what's happened that I believe has really contributed to the anxieties and stresses that we all experience is the disconnection that we have. How do I word it? We're living disconnected from the people that we're supposed to be feeling one with. We're all in this together, but a lot of what we see these days is division. We have the left and the right. When is that gonna end? And we keep falling for it, but when are we gonna stop?
Yeah, I think that's a control thing. I don't think that's a long time, and we could go deep into that. But with what you said, you start to say, we're as people, a group, we're not getting the right education, the right health system. But what can we do to help each other? I mean, other than talk. I mean, how can we fix this problem instead of looking out and say somebody needs to fix this? Where do we start?
Right here.
I think, and then this is just me talking. I've never did it, but I mean, I always say I could preach it, but I can't practice it. But I think it starts with getting out there and getting know people on a different level. If you have to go help at a soup kitchen, to know what the people on the street live like, getting to know the inside of others is going to help show us the difference. I mean, I guess to put it on point, everybody needs to get to know that nobody's made the same, and you got to accept people for their good and their bad, because that's a human being.
Yeah, I mean, there's a duality to it, right? There's the side that says I love you for who you are, and there's the other side, which is I also love you enough to call you to a higher standard of living. And I think that an unhealthy version of love is when you only have the first part, where you just love someone for who they are. But if you're watching them drink bleach and run out in traffic and do things that just are not healthy and are not helping them, yes, it is their choice to live that way. But if I'm running into traffic, I'm sure that one day I would really appreciate if someone constantly yanked me out of traffic until I learned to stop going into traffic. And I may resent them in the moment, but I mean, we could even say the same thing with kids. Kids don't have a very developed sense of right and wrong and what's safe and unsafe, what's healthy and unhealthy, and they may resent a parent in the moment. In that same way that we might resent a fellow human if
spouse or a friend
yeah, but we got to love each other enough to do something about that.
And I wish she had headphones. She chose she didn't want them, but everything you just said ties into a lot of stuff that's going on, and Shannon would really appreciate it, because what he had said is, real love is when you love everything about someone, but then you also want to change the bad stuff, the wrong way they're going. And the fake love is when they just love somebody for who they are and don't helped to try to fix that path, and went on to say we kind of got into spackle right before we went on. So Shannon is working her butt off with me, and I notice it, and I try to acknowledge it to her and tell her all the time. I know I'm not easy, especially now that I have to be carried around more or less. I was a pain in the ass when I could take care of myself. And that goes back into her and women not just addressing their problems enough because they're trying to fix someone else.
Absolutely.
I think why is it so hard for me to see? The first thing for me is to find somebody to listen, and that's if you can do that, you can make it.
Yeah. That is goes with, and I know we've had this talk before, Carrie. That goes with the people that are just around you to be around you and use you for what they can, or the people that are actually there because they know your heart and they know who you are and they want to listen to you. It's cutting out the negative people because they don't want to listen to nothing you have to say. They're ready for their good time and go home, and they'll see you tomorrow. They don't care if you don't sleep because you think about what's going on in your head all night. Or
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is walk away if they refuse to change, and their destructive life ends up being something that causes destruction in your life in a way that's just it's no longer something that can be tolerated if it's already been addressed multiple times, and change isn't happening. The worst thing you could do is keep sticking around for that person, because all you're doing is teaching them that what you're tolerating is something that you're training them that their behavior is okay. And if you love someone, you will set a boundary if they are not loving you the way that you're asking them to love you. And if someone punches me and says sorry, and then punches me, and I say, hey, don't do that, and then they say sorry, and then they punch me again, I say, hey, if you do that again, I'm walking away, and then I walk away, they don't have a right to get mad at me. I set my boundary. And I think that there needs to be a difference between love and tolerance because of the insecurity of being alone. And so it would be easier for someone to just be in an unhealthy relationship than to deal with the chronic loneliness that needs to be addressed underneath.
Yeah. Well, I can read what she says. Or emotion and avoiding toxic masculinity, Karen said, will help. And it's true. It's important to be self-aware and not project insecurities onto other people. Folks can help others as much as they can, but the person needs to take the next step to fix their problems.
Yeah, agreed.
And that walks right in line with the person needed. We had this conversation last night. I mean, you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else, and that's not being selfish. You have to put yourself forward, and then, because if you don't love yourself, you're not going to really love anybody at all.
Yeah. That's it right there.
Boundaries are so important. I see too many times where someone is struggling and lashes out at the person who's supporting them, and it's not fair to that person. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's we're all like a caged animal when it comes to stuff like that, male or female. We get backed in the corner and we get scared, and when we lash out, that's a unfortunate human trait.
There you go.
I appreciate you again for tonight, and like I said, you're going to be seeing a lot more of Charles. I think we got some good going on, and we're going to keep moving. And I think I don't know what my schedule is today, but I plan on doing a live tomorrow and getting schedules for both shows out. Carrie, I I know that you are always on the run, and I've tried to get out here for. This man's the reason I started doing podcasts. I mean, this idea right here was his, and he's just got a lot going on in life, and he can't be here. But I appreciate you coming and taking time out, man. I know.
Helps me.
I know. I can tell. Our talks, it helps. Talks help each other. That's another thing you say. How we can help each other. Just if you can have a conversation without lashing out and just a heart to heart and just listen. Instead of giving advice, just listen to what they have to say. Sometimes that helps a lot too. Just lending someone an ear.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, you guys, I thank Karen. I thank you for all the comments. If anybody else I missed comments, I'm sorry. I'm still working on the comment thing and trying to figure that out. I put this chat window up here, but nobody can read it, I don't think, because I can't. And I guess we'll just end with the. Do you have any words, Shannon? Anything? Let's just say have a good night, folks, or anything. Well, we got a semi-smile for the first time today.
I'll tell her I said thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thanks, and man, I can't wait till the next one, Charles. I'll be in contact with you, if not this evening, tomorrow, when I put my Monday work schedule back on. And
Well, that sounds great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yep, no problem. And everybody have a good night, and just try to enjoy your Sunday, and just put the good stuff in front of the bad. Put the future in front of the past. You know, there's no sense in hanging on to anything, because that's just going to weigh you down. You know, if you're climbing a mountain and you got a bunch of shit from back in the day, you don't want to climb up the mountain with it, because it's going to take forever to climb up that fucking mountain. You're going to have to take it off and chuck it to the side and keep trucking. So, all right, I'll leave it at that, or I'll keep talking. Everybody have a good evening. Thanks again. This is the Unwind Uncensored, and we will see you next time.